Devil's on my back, trying to turn me back. Gotta make this somehow, somehow. I've got to make the journey somehow. Oh, the devil's on my track, trying to turn me back. Gotta make this journey somehow, somehow. Good evening, family. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Come on in. Come on in. Hello to you. Hello to you all on this evening. This is another day that the Lord has made, and well, we're going to talk about it. Sister Gail is on her way. She will be in the room tonight. And say hello as you come in. At least let me know you're here. Appreciate all of you. Some of you will not do that because you don't want to show it on the screen. Y'all, please forgive me. A little bit tired. Just got in, traveling all day. So if I rub my eyes, that's the reason why. All right. 4 more people and I'm going to get started. Two more folk come in the room and we're going to get started. One more person come in the room, we're going to get started. All right, we've hit our number. Let's get it going. Tonight, we're going to talk about, glad to see all of you who are in the room. Some stuff I can see, some stuff I can't. Glad to see all of you in the room. Glad to see all of you in the room tonight. We're going to talk about the April call fiasco. Let's just call it what it is. Wanted to say something else, but I'll call it what it is. It's a fiasco. And we're going to talk about Pastor Bobby Smith. Y'all remember I talked to y'all about him in Las Vegas and kind of told y'all what was going to happen. And I'm going to give y'all the update on what has happened with Pastor Bobby Smith. And then if I can't see your comments, I'm not ignoring you. I just can't see them. And then we're going to talk about something else dealing with the April call inauguration. Okay, we're going to talk about the inauguration. And I think we're going to start with the last one first. Maybe, I don't know. We're going to talk about Sir William McCray III. who is apparently someone has incredibly angered him. Hello to you, Dr. Vaughn. Good to see you, sir. Uh, Dr. McQueary, I assume you are saying hello. I can't see it because it's hidden right now. It's up under something else. So I'm going to just say hello as I see y'all coming in. So glad to see y'all. It's been a minute, and that's primarily because I've been traveling. And so, uh, been out the way for a minute. I did not, I will tell you now, I did not personally attend April Call. As I told y'all, I would not be attending. I told you the reasons why I was not going to be attending. I'm always a little confused when people talk about how they feel about people and then show up and support them and give them their money. I'm always a little confused by that. Y'all know I'm a lot of church and a little street still left in me. And so I just don't understand what part of the game that is. But um, I'm gonna be praying for those people because the spirit of two-facedness may be upon them based on what I hear them say concerning certain people in leadership. And then to show up, I'm a little confused. But anyway, I digress. Um, Sir William McCrae III is feeling some kind of way, and I don't know which side is making him feel this way. But it could be bad for um, the current presiding bishop. I will simply say that um, has everything to do. Greetings, Dr. McCrae. Okay, I can see you now. Reverend Turner, good evening. Good evening. So good to see you. Glad to see y'all coming in. Um, but it involves election manipulation and fraud from 2012. But whatever has happened, it has caused uh, Sir William to begin to talk about what really happened. In case some of you all do not know, there was a lawsuit that involved Bishop Shaw, Bishop Mosey, um, the late Bishop Sheard, um, the current presiding bishop, and Sir William, and some others. And so he is just about ready to name names, has receipts. I promise you, has receipts. Um, and I'm not just talking about receipts like, we say, emails. No, I'm talking about cash apps, receipts um, concerning that matter and what really happened. Whether or not he will choose to fully divulge, I don't know. Um, but what I do know is that Bishop Shaw, who I admire greatly, and who is a great mentor uh, and confidant, was right, and to figure that all those things were working together is just extremely uh, disappointing. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. We got time at the end. Um, so let's talk about the April call meeting. Did any of y'all go? Anybody go? That's in the room. I can't see everybody's in the room. Uh, but did anybody go that's in the room? And if you did, what was your experience? Yeah, he actually reached out to me after he did that video. Uh, is that Dr. Murray? Good to see you tonight, man. Always good to see you. Um, good evening to you, Alex Corbin. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Blessings to you. Okay, I knew Reverend Turner was not. Dr. Turner, I knew you wasn't going. You were pretty clear on that. I felt like you were not going to attend. Well, here's the thing: you weren't by yourself because apparently this was the most unattended, uh, the most unattended April call meeting in probably decades. In real talk. Um, and I do have the video and the pictures to prove it, but it was the most unattended. Um, there were some fireworks, and I have the video from that. Well, a couple of videos from that out of Texas. Now, there seems to be a problem in Texas. Um, there seems to be a problem when there becomes an opening in Texas, uh, and then the general board members come in. Not real sure why it's always Texas, but Texas uh, seems to have problems with that. And for my understanding, there was a confrontation uh, between. I know him as Bishop Robert Nichols Jr., but he did put the title bishop, which was from outside the church, which is interesting. We're going to talk about that too. But he put that aside to work with his father, who was the jurisdictional bishop at just shortly before he really started getting sick. And so he gave that up. He was already successful. Didn't really need to do it, but he did out of honor of his father and the church in which he grew up in and started his work in. Um, so apparently, I think I told you all that uh, Superintendent Lee had gotten the nod on the election in Texas East, but it was only by, I believe, one, maybe. I think it was one vote, and then somebody else who ran voted for himself. So it was a two-vote separation, but it was only one of them just voted for himself. So that's the way that that went. And so my understanding was that it was a 10-12 vote. Um, Good to see you, Bishop Ray. Good to see you tonight. Thank you, sir. Um, and so, um, so Bishop Nichols had unreadiness as it related to the uh, as it related to what Bishop saying where as it related to um, the readiness for the general board report, um, because there were several. I'm trying to say this in a nice way, y'all. There were several questions as it related to that vote. One of which um, was how close it was. That was number one. Number two, apparently, according to pastors in that jurisdiction, and according to what happened in General Assembly, Bishop Prince Bryant, who is the general board member in charge of that jurisdiction since Bishop Nichols Sr. died. So what you have are two sons, the son of Bishop Lee, the previous bishop, and the son of Bishop Nichols, the recently deceased bishop, who were the two that were running for jurisdictional bishop. Okay. Um, you just heard me say that Bishop Lee got 12 votes and that Bishop Nichols got 10. Here comes the issue is that Prince Bryant, um, Bishop Prince Bryant, general board member, cast two votes for two churches within that jurisdiction. And the understanding is that that is what made them two votes apart. The problem is, watch this. The problem is that the explanation for voting twice from Bishop Bryant has been that he voted two vacant churches. But according to those who I talked to today, neither one of those churches are vacant. They're pastored by women. Let that sink in for just one second. And those two churches, therefore, Bishop Bryan, who is overseeing interimly the jurisdiction, cast both of those votes as his votes. Those now, again, let me say this: I don't know if he cast those votes. I think what is being said, I think what came out, and again, I have the video, but what came out, if I'm remembering correctly, is that Bishop Bryant said that he voted by proxy, and that he said he voted, which he probably did. He voted, in place of those women voting. Um, but those churches were not vacant; they have female pastors, and so he voted. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is crazy, y'all. And so he voted and cast those two votes um, for Superintendent James Lee Jr. Now, what ends up happening is uh, Pastor Nichols' administrative assistant, Robert Nichols Jr., goes to April Call and he lets these questions be known. Um, and public information, if you were there, you would know this. As he begins to address these issues, the presiding bishop then stands and tells him, brother, you're finna get yourself in trouble. And I don't want you to get yourself in trouble. And uh, uh, let's just say a banter back and forth happens between him and Bishop Sheard, where also Bishop. Now, this is crazy. If it wasn't on video, I would not believe this. If somebody did not video it, I would believe it. But then Bishop Michael Hill, you can be heard saying, "Cut him off, kill him, take him out." He'd already got in trouble. Again, this is because of his challenge of what was happening. Okay. Um, and again, so he's challenging a general board member, he's challenging what's happening, and basically gets threatened, um, which is odd behavior for leaders of church, especially to vote that close. That's a legitimate question. Actually, that should have been a question for the chairman of the General Assembly, or maybe even, you know, parliamentarian could have addressed it as a rule. Uh, but that question never got dealt with. And bless you. Thank you so much, Marquise, for coming in. Um, so that has become a problem. Um, apparently, language excused, language excused. Uh, Nichols was wrong. Okay, Amos, tell me why Nichols was wrong. I don't have a problem with you saying. Just tell me why he was wrong. Because I don't know. All I know is what was sent to me. But what do you think he was wrong concerning? You are not the only person to ask what happened to the advisor's induction, Bishop Ray. Haven't got the answer to that yet. Wrong about the um. You said Art Dillard. You said he was wrong about the Constitution. Yeah, Marquise. This was an unproductive. Uh, Now you are right. Let me say this. Dr. Dillard is right there. I want y'all to see the comment there. Presiding Bishop and General Board has sole authority to appoint jurisdictional bishops, voting or polling or just giving recommendations. That is absolutely true. That is without a doubt the absolute truth. That is the Constitution. Um, and that was the one thing that I did uh, notice and kind of had issue with because clearly the Constitution. It's actually the presiding bishop has the sole authority, but only with the approval of the general board. So, eh, you know, most of the time you're not going to see a general board go against the presiding bishop about who he wants to appoint to whatever. You don't even have to be in that jurisdiction. Uh, Blessing to you, Dr. Prim. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Um, you don't even have to be in that jurisdiction. The presiding bishop can literally pull and as long as you're a licensed elder in good standing within the church, presiding bishop can pull anybody from anywhere to appoint them to anything within the church. Okay, okay. McQuarrie says this happened, Bishop Bryan in Michigan. Sure, you all, Michigan Southwest. Yeah, yeah. It seems to be, and let me say this to you all because I want to be clear. I want to be abundantly clear. I like Bishop Bryan. I personally like Bishop Bryan. Um, I personally like Bishop Bryan. However, I'm sorry. Come on in, Gail. Where you at? However, this is again. Why do we bring people up on this platform? For only one reason, and that is because there is a either a constitutional problem or ethical problem. And of course, we all know the problem in Michigan. Uh, I heard that they made you all into a jurisdiction, man. Congratulations. Uh, yes, sir, Bishop. Yes, right. Eastern New York 6. Listen, I want to celebrate that because y'all really, from everything I've heard, y'all have really done a great job out there. So it was well deserved, well earned. Um, but so this is a problem because there was another jurisdiction that there was a problem with in Texas that Bishop Bryant was about the legitimacy of some of the churches, whether or not this jurisdiction should even be made at all. Um, and again, they were um, the general board got upset at the questions that hit the floor. Then there was another jurisdiction in Texas again, Bishop Bryant overseeing, and there was a money issue, and Bishop Shea got up very angry. And said, nobody accused me of taking money to make jurisdiction. Okay, so this is kind of a recurring theme at this point, and I think we have to figure. I guess what I'm asking is why does this keep happening? Um, Now there are a lot of things I've been told about happening in Texas East, but what I do know is that Administrative Assistant Nichols. Now you know I'm not gonna tell you what jurisdiction that was. I ain't trying to kill nobody. I'm just talking. Sister Gail, you wait a minute now. You done went off the scene. Somebody told you looking good. And you went off the scene. My God, today. What's going on, Maceo? Good to see you tonight. Um, so and y'all know I don't really deal in the rumors. So that's why some stuff I know I'm not saying tonight. I do know the dollar amount that is exchanged. I do know personal information, but I don't think you fall into that. Um, although my understanding is that there were things put out about Administrative Assistant Nichols Jr. That he did address and said, as a famous words of another presiding bishop, Bishop Charles Edward Blake. I was in the room when he said it. Um, any of the accusations, bring my accuser before me. And if not, you can follow me home. You know that, and so Bishop Nichols, Administrative Assistant Nichols, kind of went down that same road of because some stuff. If you all remember when I endorsed Bishop Daniels, that was one of the things I addressed was the elephant in the room. This is what people say, um, and it turned out to not be the facts. Um, very directly, that was a very direct conversation and a very direct appeal. So, you know, uh, many of the things I've heard people say about Administrator Nichols in the past weeks, I've had people come and say a lot of different things about uh, Bishop designate. Listen, don't get caught up in that kind of stuff. That's relatively irrelevant because no matter who's running for what in a church, you're going to always have somebody with a rumor. Doesn't matter who you are, what you're running for in this church, there's going to always be uh, a rumor. Now, not everybody. Uh, uh, and Dillard says, let me show it to you. He says, so long as we can hide or cover our sins, then it's okay. I assume that's a question. Could you put a question mark on it? I think the real question is why are things being said? Again, I've heard things about both people. Um, about both people. Some of it is easily verifiable because there are court documents and records to prove it. Some things are innuendo. Um, y'all know my lights be doing this. Hey, Gil. Good evening.
Good
But I
evening.
think and I think you were correct. But to me, it's never okay, ever. Because that's not what the Bible tells. The Bible says, confess, repent. These are things that ought to be among leaders. But I think that question goes beyond just the one person because it depends on who you're talking. Y'all do know that, right? It always depends on who you're talking to. How about that, Gil? What say you?
That is true. It all depends on who you're talking to and what they are saying to you. People like to hide. I want to say good evening to everyone. Sorry for being late, Bishop.
Oh, you're fine. But I think it's bigger than that. I think it's bigger than that, Smith. Because I think what is said about you is determined a lot of times by who you're talking to. If I like you, then I'm gonna tell you how great this person is. If I don't, then I'm gonna tell you how bad this person is. Uh, if I as they say, if I cut for you, then I don't care who's saying what about you. I'm gonna say that ain't it. And they only saying that because of this about them. So I think we have to be. I remember I was I was in a corporate sales training because I was a business analyst for a while. And so I'm in this corporate sales training And they trained us differently to say, they said to us, if they don't go in promoting recommendations or endorsements, that's what it was. And of course, my question was, well, why not? Because that's how everybody does sales. And so the trainer says to me, who's going to give you an endorsement that doesn't like you? It's really just that simple. Good evening to you, Brother Taylor. Good to see you tonight. Um, it's just that simple. People who give you third party endorsements or who endorse you generally know you. Um, what's different here is most of the people that we endorse, a lot of them I don't personally know. So I have to do my research about that. And ethics follows you wherever you go. Ethics follows you wherever you go. So I don't really know. I've said to you all, I don't really know uh, the bishop designee at all. I did have opportunity to know his father, who was a much older man, but he was about the age of my father. So a lot of people that I know are older men. Uh, hey, Marco. Uh, I don't. We're gonna get to that banquet in just a second because uh, uh, there was room for a football game and uh, probably a couple of basketball games on the other side and a little soccer match if you needed to in the room. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know. Can I just be honest, Tina? I ask yourself that question. How who do you know that would pay to watch other people eat dinner and do whatever they did? Yeah, I don't. Okay, let me see. Okay, Dylan, I'm coming right to you. He says Nico disrespected Sheard and the general board. My father was in attendance. Yeah, I got the video. I've got the video of the actual. It's actually about three different videos from the actual situation. So um, I think the problem is. Um, I think the problem is with me. Um, I remember, Gail. I remember I went to in 2010. I went to General Assembly. I was jurisdictional secretary at the time. And so I go to um the April call. And at the April call, I went with there was another preacher there who had not been. And so he didn't really know what happened in April call. And so he would get angry every time somebody would get up and challenge Bishop Blake. I mean, I'm talking about angry, ready to fight. And so he had an issue with that. And that's when I realized that he had never been. I said, "Man, have you ever been to April Call?" I said, this is how the church operates. This is the business of the church. That's basically what this is, a church business meeting." And we get through that session, Gail, and it's time for lunch. So we break it for lunch, and there's this crowd at the door. If you're in the choir stand or on the podium facing the back, there's a door to your left at the front, right just outside of where you would go up the stairs, go to the prayer room. And so I'm talking to him because I'm trying to console him because he's discombobulated, Gail, and all of a sudden there's a lot of yelling and commotion at the door. And somebody is talking about, you don't do that. And I mean, they doing all of that, finger and everything. And he was kind of tall guy. And he was checking a general board member. about his father. Gail, guess who that was?
The
That's
presiding bishop of
the
this
current presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ. The current presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ was doing
church.
that. And I thought to myself, what are you gonna do this old man? But he felt some kind of way. All right. That actually happened. And so I had to ask the preacher I was with, I said, man, who is that? He said, man, that's Drew Sheard. I said, really? Because I had never seen him in person. I don't even think I had seen him out of person at the time. I didn't know who he was. But I said that to say, uh, yeah, Dr. Murray will tell you. General Assembly, he said it best. Listen, here it is. Dr. Murray said it best. General Assembly ain't for just regular people. It's just not. It's not. If you don't know how we do what we do, there are a lot of confrontations. Um, you have confrontations. Watch this, Dr. Murray. Tell me if I'm lying. You have confrontations between the chairman and the presiding bishop, the chairman and delegates, this person and that. It's the business of the church. And that's where you come to give a grievance. The problem with what the presiding bishop did, and this is just me, the problem with what the presiding bishop did was that this is the time when you stand up for unreadiness. You're immediately you are saying, I don't agree with something in this report, whoever the report is. This happened to be the general board's report. So there's unreadiness in what was in the report in terms of making Superintendent Lee bishop designate. That was the problem. So the only time that he has to say something is then. The only time he has to challenge it, which is what unreadiness is, an opportunity to challenge the motion on the floor and say what you think should happen. I think this ought to be amended. I think that ought to be taken out. I think that needs further investigation. Whatever it is that you stood up to say. So I think I don't want to leave it out there that it was disrespectful as much as that's just how things happen. That's what's supposed to happen. And as a leader, you have to have enough self-control to not get offended. That's our problem with police officers. Yeah, they don't like being questioned because now you question my authority when I'm asking you a question. Well, I have the right to question you.
Now, I do
And
have a
so
question. I do have a
go right
question.
ahead. Yeah.
Why is it when they have these general assemblies and they get ready to talk about the business of this church, why do you have all these bullies? We're supposed to be saved. Okay, we don't do as the world, and we should be able to sit at the round table and talk, and everyone should be able to give their view. This is somewhat of the control to me, control of the chairman that is in control of this meeting. Why is it that everyone comes to an anger and want to go for blows? That does not make
Okay,
sense.
let me answer that. Once you have put the motion on the floor and you've opened it up to unreadiness, there's really nothing for the chairman to do. He can't answer for the report of the general board, which is why you normally would see the secretary. But in these instances, many times, the presiding bishop will get up to defend if he feels offended. And the problem with what Administrative Assistant Nichols did was, just as the presiding bishop said, uh, um, they felt like he was talking too much about too many things. And so the presiding bishop told him, you're getting ready to get yourself in trouble, and it would be better to not get yourself in trouble. So again, most people don't know what he meant when he said that.
But see, there goes that character. There goes that character of being a bully.
Right.
You don't.
Right.
You don't. The presiding bishop, okay, in times past, you know, I am a Lewis Henry Ford baby.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get up and have to be a bully to anybody. But I'm seeing
Right.
now this generation of baby boomers that have come, it's our turn now. Okay. I'm not telling you how old
Mhm.
I am and it doesn't matter, but I'm saying it looks like there's a lot of bullying and I'll show you who is in control. And it seems like they're not listening to the people. This is not your show. These are the people you
Well,
are representing the organization as a
mm,
whole, and then I have a right to say if I don't like things the way they are going, I want to know why. I don't need this. Well, we're just going to talk about that later. No, we'll talk about it now. Okay.
well,
We need
I will say,
answers, and people
Gail,
need answers.
let me say this, Gil, to what you're saying. I agree. Okay. I agree. The problem is the other side of it, where Dr. Dillard is, and that is constitutionally, they can choose whoever they want to, right? So what was actually happening? Now let me go ahead and congratulations to my friend Melton Timmons. That is my friend, and I knew that was coming at some point. I thought it would happen last year, but uh, um, I, so you have what you're saying, which is constitutional rights of every member of the church, as it relates to delegates, constitutional rights of every delegate. Here comes the problem. They have the right to choose whoever they want to. Um, the general board has the right to approve whoever the presiding bishop appoints. He can do that without any confrontation whatsoever. Uh, uh, Dr. Prim says, show it to us. I agree, Reverend Dr. Gale. However, this is much of the same. The leadership of today learned from prior leaders. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is not new. Okay. Because we have never clarified it in the uh, which a lot of things in the Constitution are not clarified, right? That's why we have church ownership issues. That's why they keep ending up in court with that. We have stuff like this. That's why they end up there because there is a polling, but then the polling is not binding upon the presiding bishop or the general board, which should be. These are things that, and of course, Gail, you know, as I attempted to run for chairman, these were the legislative things that I talked about, where that need to be handled legislatively. This really should never have been an issue if the legislation was taken care of. But because we have a chairman who thinks, well, nobody's fixed it, and the guy before me didn't fix it, and the guy before me, y'all remember he said that in his chat with the chair. So that's why, well, I don't know if we're gonna ever codify anything at all anyway. I don't understand that as a leader, but at any rate, if you're not, that's the problem. You know, the problem is not Nichols or uh, Bishop Sheard. The problem is that there's no legislative process that just ends this all the way around. If you look at the Constitution, not only do they poll, and that's an option, by the way, they don't have to, that they optionally poll, but then they're not governed by the poll. So it doesn't really matter at that point. And then, so that's number two. And then number three, then it says that the presiding bishop has the right to choose whomever he wants to among the elders, but then he's got to get approval, a majority of the general board. So, and then anybody can go through the general assembly and raise unreadiness and put a motion on what the only thing that administrative assistant Nichols did not do properly is if he wanted it changed, he should have put a motion to amend with the amendment in the motion. Um, that is what should have happened. But he didn't get the best advisors. Um,
Let me clarify. Let me clarify of what I made the statement of
yeah.
Bishop Ford. I do understand. I do know that Bishop Ford was not a perfect man.
Hmm.
I do know that. And there are other things that I do know because I grew up in first jurisdiction, Central Illinois. But however, the way it is now, um, who is the real voice of the people? Who's the voice of the people?
Well,
It's
that's
like they're
supposed to be the
leaving the
General
people
Assembly.
out. The
It's
delegates need.
supposed to be the General Assembly, but this is not a people's problem. This is a constitutional problem, and the other side to it is, again, you got to remember, when you're watching this, or when you're sitting in that room as a virtual or a in-person delegate, you don't know what I know. Okay, I haven't talked with Administrative Assistant Nichols yet. I'm gonna call him tomorrow. Uh, but this didn't come from him. This came from one of the pastors who was there. Okay, so here's the problem: there's things that you don't know about behind the scenes, and so that is what Bishop Sheard was talking about. Is the stuff that was said and told to Administrative Assistant Nichols, uh, and there was a dangling happening. That was, so when you saw Bishop Shear say what he said, then you see Administrative Assistant Nichols come back and say what he says about making sure, that he gets whatever, whatever. So that's, and I know what the deal was. I know what the plan is. I don't know that it's reasonable. I don't know that it's reasonable. I don't know how that jurisdiction splits though, because to me, you don't have enough churches to split that jurisdiction. It
Some need
just
to
you
be
just
merged. Some jurisdictions really need to be merged.
some need to be
Merged.
merged.
They need to be
Uh,
merged. Some historical jurisdictions need to be merged. You know.
that part right there. Um, yeah,
Oh,
it is. Um, Favored and Blessed says Bishop, I've sat on 5 boards, 2 higher education, 3 professional, with millions of dollars in all professionals. Leadership is important, and no one person has 5 stars. I agree. Really, if you look at our Constitution, the General Assembly is the only decision-making entity in the church that cannot be challenged. All decisions, check your Constitution. All decisions of the General Assembly are final. The problem that we have right now, and I'm going to say this, and I always understand that some people, uh, yeah, the people are absolutely highly Smith. The people are the ones supposed to hold up the Constitution, but again, the way we are doing, even, man, JD, I would love to come. I highly respect uh, Dr. Timmons. His sister and my mother were very long time friends, and Dr. Joyce was very kind to me. Um, Come on here, Mother Johnson. It's one of those to where, in this particular situation, I hope cooler heads prevail, Gail. I hope they do. Um, I hope they can figure that out. I almost didn't talk about this because I don't really want to put light on it, because I know people getting their feelings. We start talking about stuff, people get, they take it personal, and then other people pick it up, and then it just goes from there. I don't really want that in this situation. I don't know, because people can be petty and people can hold grudges and keep them for very long periods of time. So, I hope that it's that they get to a place of understanding that that's just the General Assembly. That's the place you come to do that.
well,
If they take it as Dr. Dilla has said tonight, as a disrespect and a personal issue, this is somebody running for an office. So, and this is the place. When people do it in the right venue, the right way, I have a hard time letting it be personal. Because if they wanted to make it personal, then they go to social media, or they go to court, or they do, because now it's personal. This church business. And
I'm
I
not
looked up.
sure. I'm not sure, and I don't mean to cut you off. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah, no, good.
sure where. Okay, now we have all officers have been presented. We have had this big service and all that. I still have not heard the plan from the presiding bishop of where are we
There
going
you go,
for the
starting.
next
There you
4
go.
years.
There you go, starting stuff. There you go. There you go, starting stuff tonight. Now
It's
you
like
know
it's
this.
like it's
That
like we're
you
stuck.
know the
We still
presiding
have not
bishop
heard
has
back.
not. Gail, you know the presiding bishop has not presented a plan for the next 4 years. Why are you even doing that? Why? Why? You know he ain't said. Come on, you know he ain't.
Why? What? What are we really
And can
doing?
okay, let me play devil's advocate against you one more time tonight. And I'm really mad because you got me defending the presiding bishop, and I'm not used to being in this position. But here comes the problem. Technically, he didn't become the presiding bishop again until last night. The other night, Thursday night, I think it was. Till Thursday night when the General Assembly said yes. So whatever plans he had, somebody could have came in and said no.
And
And
let's
then
be
it would have,
clear.
been a whole uproar.
Let's be clear on that. He was not reelected, and I really
We
wish he
gonna get
was
there. Yeah,
here.
we gonna get. Hold on, we gonna get there.
Yeah.
We ain't there yet. We gonna get there. We gonna get there. Uh, the until he was installed last night. That's what the Constitution says. Until they are duly installed. So he was duly installed. We're gonna talk about that other problem in a second. But in terms of giving vision, you can't. You're not there yet. It's until it's official. It's not official. Okay. Um, which is odd. Which I don't know why they waited until. Oh, that's right, because they hurried up and did a vote in November and got up out of there, so nobody could challenge what was happening. Now I remember. Okay, that's right. I was trying to figure out why they didn't do that in November because this should have already been done. I don't even know why we're doing this in April.
I
Now I
stand.
remember. Never mind.
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay. I
Now I get.
stand. I
Yep.
stand to be corrected, but technically he was not at the time
Yeah.
of the vote. He was not reelected. Now they did something after behind the scenes and all that stuff, and they really need to stop that stuff. They really
I'm,
need to stop.
I'm gonna tell you who came up with that strategy. And he came on. He came in the comments. What was it? 2017, I think it was. Because he used to follow the show. I think he still follows out, but he doesn't. He does it from the cut somewhere. Anyway, the Bishop Talbot Swan, who at the time was Bishop Joel Lyle's assistant general secretary. Actually, through that whole tenure, I believe he was the assistant general secretary. And so when we had this conversation, the election of 2016 actually is what most people don't know started this show, because it was so unconstitutional. And we were talking about this at the time. And Bishop Swan came in, I think like 2 shows came in, and he was trying to defend it as a strategy called uh, vote by acclamation. Okay, that's a voice vote where all the other opponents say we don't want to run. Okay. That was something that they used in the Catholic Church. I think they stopped using it in the 14th, 15th century. I think that was the dialogue that me and Bishop Swan was having in 2017, because I had a problem with it then. Because Bishop Blake was the first person to ever do that, or to be I can't even say elected, because there's no constitutional authority in this church to have a vote by acclamation. And so most people just think, oh, you can do that. You can't. Our Constitution is very explicit. And Bishop Blake was the first presiding bishop ever in the history of the Church of God in Christ to not be elected by a secondary election for what, 8 years? So what do you do? Now they're doing it because the people have not said anything. And as long as the delegates don't say anything and no one challenges it, people think that it's over when the election takes place. No. In case you missed it, and I've said this, Gail, many times on this platform, then it comes to the General Assembly. And the reason that they're not sitting in the pulpit in terms of installment or inaugural day, if you will, is because they're not technically the general board or presiding bishop until the questions are posed to the General Assembly. And those final questions are always, if you know of a cause why this person should not be in this seat, then that's the time for you to give your unreadiness and why there's a problem. We generally don't do that. But it's not because it couldn't be done. It's because, and I think you and I had this conversation a couple days ago when we talked about this. It's because at the end of the day, who wants to come to that event in front of probably 5 to 8,000? Well, normally 5 to 8,000 people. Not this time, but
anyway.
no, no. Again, could have played basketball, football, and not hit nobody in several sections. Just
could have had a whole nother service on the other side.
Oh yeah. Wasn't no fear of shouting and dancing because you wasn't gonna hit nobody. And they a lot of people look tired anyway. They look like they were tired, but a lot going on this week. But again, at the end of the day, nobody wants to put that kind of pressure on themselves. You gotta have a strong constitution internally to do that. Now, what I have found is if you do that, then other people will speak up, and nobody wants to be the first. And that's just a reality. A lot of nobody wants to be that first guy to do that. So, and then you're gonna have people turn on you, and people, oh, just but can you do it? Absolutely. And so that's why they don't sit up there initially because they're not initially in that seat. I don't care how many times that you hear. Although the Constitution does say that the minute that the new presiding bishop is elected, um, that he becomes the chief executive officer at that time. But you got to remember, we have two forms of government in this church. So we have a civil government. That's the C. That's the board of directors. The C is the corporation that is Church of God in Christ Incorporated. And then you have the ecclesiastical structure. Those are actually two different entities. So he becomes the CEO immediately, but he has to be installed as presiding bishop. And the general board has to be installed as the general board. They just are operating as the board of directors of the corporation that is Church of God in Christ Incorporated. So,
and let us make this clear as well. There is no such thing as an executive order in this church.
No. First person to use that again was Bishop Blake. And he used it, I want to say maybe, you know what, I hate my lies. I think he used it possibly for, was that Bishop Kyle's the first time he used it? Do you remember, Gail?
I can't really remember if it was used like that, but and then the people just grabbed at it. They were like a sponge. Oh, amen, amen.
And then I think when Bishop Shear got in the first time he used it was because the general board report was rejected in totality, and he then said, that he was going to use an executive authority to approve the budget that they wanted and do whatever it is that they were going to do. So those are the times in history that I can remember offhand that has happened.
But when they talk about a budget,
but
when they talk about a budget, what budget? Because they're not talking about it in the. Oh God! They do not talk about any kind of budget during the actual meeting for the Joseph.
Well,
they never talk about a budget. So I
let me
don't know
say
what
this. I wish you would stop making me defend folk. Let me say this. Generally, the money part is the last things that's talked about. Two things are probably always the last two reports. The finance report, where they talk about whatever the budget is, what we brought in, what went out, what's anticipated budget for whatever department. And then the extensions committee, which deals with jurisdiction. Um, One people kind of try to stick around for. The other one is probably, if it is not the last report, it's one of two last reports. Generally, it's the finance and then whatever Sappho got to lie about. Is generally how that go. I said that out loud, didn't I? Okay. Uh, it's the finance and whatever the counsel, legal counsel, whatever story they got to tell. And then no, that's pretty much how it ends. I don't even know if they're always voted on because there's hardly ever a quorum on the last day. So a lot of those votes just
because
they
people
don't
gotta
have
hurry
them.
up and check out because they don't want to pay no extra money for the extra time that they gotta be there, and they just
True.
it's just really bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
So you don't get that, and then so they let it linger until till this coming November, and you still get the same thing. You still don't know.
Well, then also in April, a lot of things are not, you don't know until you get to November anyway. So a lot of things get tabled and, just pushed down the road to another day. So um, let me get off of this for one second because I want to talk about, do you remember Pastor Bobby Smith, Gail? Do you remember him?
No.
I talked about him probably 2 years ago, maybe three now. He was a pastor in Las Vegas, remember? And he had
Oh
got
yeah, the
arrested
man with the adult
with the adult toys. The adult toys.
the adult ministry.
Right, right. And
Adults only in
he,
ministry. Oh yeah,
well,
yeah.
if you remember, he hit the heat not because of what he was charged with. He hit the heat
He gave special
uh,
classes.
because the presiding bishop at the time put out that he had fired him, removed him from his church, and all that stuff. And of course, he's never been removed from his church. That has never been the truth. It never happened. He hasn't ever been out of his pulpit. Um, and we talked about it because of the constitutional authority that the presiding bishop does not have to remove, or any bishop to remove a pastor. Pastors can only be removed by the pastors and elders council within their jurisdiction and or by an appeal to the national pastors and elders council of pastors and elders, and before that committee by trial if they appeal it.
And there
They
is a
then have.
process. There is a
Yeah.
process that is being done, and you can't just you can't just pop up. And just,
Right, you can't just
okay, you are
put
no
somebody out and then if you remember, Dr. O'Carter put it, he put it out, cutting for the presiding bishop and then of course that's when we said something. Okay, here's the problem. His case was over a year ago. Yeah, his case just got over on April the 22nd. No, not April 22nd. Last month, his case was ended, and it may have been a couple months ago. I think maybe January, because I think it ended early. Okay, so here's the thing, Gil. Remember all them sex charges? They all got dismissed. Yeah, yeah. And then he pled to two misdemeanors. One was an attempt to commit a crime, and the other was great lewdness. Okay, and here's what it was about:
great what?
lewdness, Lewdness. That's a charge in Nevada. Okay,
Oh,
I mean,
that sounds Sound like
not great. I mean, not great. I meant gross. I said great. I meant gross because it's at a greater level. So it's gross lewdness and then an attempt to commit a crime. The gross lewdness charge also ultimately got dismissed as well. So the only thing he was convicted of was a misdemeanor attempt to commit a crime. Here is what actually happened in that case. So Pastor Bobby Smith, it turns out that he did not actually, I guess, didn't assault the young ladies. There was a couple of problems with it. First of all, they were both 17 when he asked the adult toys conversation with them, and
that was a special ministry.
he's now. Let me say this: he's weird. Brother's weird though, for real. I don't care why you had to come. He said, you know. Now, of course, his reasoning was they were teenagers and they were hot, and I was trying to tell them how to satisfy that heat and stay safe at the same time. I had to take a pause, Gail. I don't even know how I said that with straight face.
When you said that word, I was like, is that with a B? You know, because that sounds like one of them lube or lube. You know, I was like, huh?
So here, I do not understand most aspects of this case, but I'm gonna tell you in a minute why I'm bringing it up.
Well, see, that sounds like them two artists that's in jail right now for the same thing. You know, Jesus.
You know, people don't like you, they'll convict you. You know, so the offer from the prosecutors were, hey, take this misdemeanor and we're going to get rid of all this other stuff. Why did they do that? Because the age of consent in Nevada is 16. They don't have Romeo and Juliet laws in Nevada. And so technically anything he did, even if he had done something, which they say he did not, then it would have still been, they were able to consent because they were 17. They were over 16, let's just put it like that. But there was one young lady who was in her that was in her 20s that apparently he caught in the hallway and dropped his pants and asked her to do some things, and she said no. And according to her, this is her testimony, he asked again, and she said no and pushed him out the way, and that was the end of that. So that's the lewdness charge because he dropped his pants and showed what the Lord had given him.
See.
That's lewdness.
We talked about this some time ago. We talked about this
We
some
did.
time ago, and I
like 3 years
made
ago.
a comment. I think I made a view, a comment or something that churches. I mean, the church is sexually frustrated. They are frustrated, and nobody wants to talk about this with the youth. Okay, in there, you know, they don't want to talk about it with the youth, and they definitely don't want to talk about it to the middle.
Well, he wanted to talk about it with the youth.
Oh, he was talking, but it was one-on-one. So you know, I mean, they don't really want to talk about sex at church.
Well, I think
because you have that physical attraction, and then these perverts, they have these young women, young men that are young, and they're already experimenting in their minds, and they have a lot of questions. And I'm at my age, I still got questions that never been answered. Oh, Jesus. Don't nobody want to say nothing, but it is happening. It is happening in the pulpit, in the usher board, and just everywhere. I mean, people, it's just a part of life that they want to keep hidden. And then
let me say this though, Gail, because I don't want anybody to think that assault or any kind of inappropriate action that you can't endorse that. But I get where you're coming from in terms of it's not complicated for me. I don't care what you what you're suggesting as a pastor to your members, right? If that's the way that you tell your members how to handle sexual sin or sexual frustration, I don't have no problem with that. What I got a problem with is that you had 20 adult toys in your room and you were giving them to the young people in your church. Um, Even if that's your theory,
Okay,
I
so
just
he
need
had a local, so he had a local Ames convention.
this was just members at his church. These were young people at his church who had come to talk to him about what was going on with them, and then and then you go that direction. So I do have a problem with that, and I do honestly believe that had the presiding bishop and them done it the proper way, then he could have properly been removed. Church of God in Christ is powerful, and courts generally side with it. They always side with the church when it comes to discipline. Always, you would have had proper authority over the church. I'm pretty sure there's not a. I can't believe that Nevada first, which I think was where he was a part of. I don't believe that they would have not convicted him in a trial with the pastor and elder council of that jurisdiction. I don't believe they would not have, and I think probably they would have recommended removal or voted to remove. The problem is, here we go, Gil. Now let's deal with the constitutional issue. The problem is by what you did, which was unconstitutional, and he was never convicted of the crime. He actually only has a misdemeanor on his record as of now. He had to um they sentenced him to 1 year probation, and he had to register as a sex offender as long as he was under that probation. Uh, he got off the probation early, and he's already removed from the offenders list, and that charge has already been dismissed and removed from his record. And so you created a problem because now I believe he has probably recourse if he chose to take it against the presiding bishop and the general board and the and whoever else, General Assembly, church, which is the church, um, for what they did. Now, whether or not he'll do it, I don't know. But you've opened it up to possible litigation, and so that's what I mean when I say again, who's advising you to do this stuff? Just follow the Constitution. If you follow the Constitution, this wouldn't even been a problem at all. And I think even if the church didn't want somebody new, they could have petitioned the General Assembly, and I think the General Assembly would have happily voted to let them leave the Church of God in Christ altogether. So, but as of yesterday, according to the courts, there's still New Beginnings Ministries Church of God in Christ. Okay.
Bishop, can we go back?
Yeah,
We have comment.
I missed it. I'm
Bishop,
sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I have seen no comments over here. So,
we have a comment that says, no, I believe in Christian dating. I don't believe in fornication. I believe that Christian dating is God's way of finding out who your potential wife or husband will be, not them.
um, I only have one problem with that. We have a very high divorce rate in church. I don't believe that you can show me anywhere in the Bible where God stops you from marrying whoever you want to marry. I don't know of that place. If God was going to dictate what you do, certainly he wouldn't have allowed David to take Bathsheba. That would not have happened, would it? These are things that would not um, have happened. I agree. I do believe um, the money goes to Bishop Sheard. That goes to his ministry, his bank. And absolutely favor and blessed. That's the thing I'm not talking about. Yeah, there are backdoor deals. You know, Bishop Wood never talks about he not gonna do that.
Well, it
No,
seems
and Mr. Watkins, you are absolutely correct. A lot of credential holders, number one, don't know what their rights are, then they don't know how to utilize them. How in the world do they mispronounce Bishop Linwood Dillard's name? I didn't understand it either. I don't, disrespect is a Gail you on fire tonight. The question, JD, can Earl Carter come back to church? Earl Carter's never been put out to church.
who keeps saying that?
I don't know why people think that, but Earl Carter's never been put out to church. Sales, he wouldn't be around mine either. He got a lot going on. I think he did want action. With them. I think it was grooming. But again, here's the problem. It wasn't illegal in Nevada. I saw that from Mother Kelly. Here's the problem. Here's the problem, MX. When you say shouldn't Presiding Bishop remove the nasty joke? Here's the problem. If you can violate his rights, then we can violate yours. That's what it's always about for me. I tell y'all this all the time. Me today, you tomorrow. The worst thing that we can do, I don't care if you're talking about the country or you're talking about the Church of God in Christ or any church, the worst thing you can do is give up your power, your authority for the person you don't like. In order for bad men to win, all it takes is for good men to do nothing. I think that was Martin Luther King said that. Still say they have to thank you. The parents. Let me answer this real quick, Gail, and then you got it. Where were the parents? The parents were there at the church.
And they trust
They
their
were members. Yeah. One father said when he was told he did confront him, and then they put him out to church. See, that's the problem. When you start violating the rules at the top, they're gonna violate the rules at the bottom. Because you can't just put somebody at church guy Christ. Yeah, members have rights too.
I do want to say this though, as you continue, Bishop. Soon, outside of the basic show of the heat, we will have Bishop is putting together a relationship show, and so all these things that we're speaking of now, Brother Charles Daniels, we will be discussing that in our relationship show. And then we could really, we can really talk about it because nobody says anything.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. Um, I agree with you, Daniels, in your proposition. I agree with that. Or I believe that people should date. I really do. Um, you can be single and dating and saved all at the same time. It doesn't require you to be unsaved. Um, I think it's a little more difficult, Gail, if I can say it like this. I think it's more difficult today than when you're talking about biblical times. And here's why. So many people today have already engaged in coitus before they ever got married. And so they have certain experiences. And it ain't for this platform, but it's for another platform, but I'm gonna say it tonight. The reality is, um, to my brothers, you get with somebody who's got certain experiences and you don't measure up to those experiences, brother, you may be in trouble later on down the road. Just telling you. People, Gail, I wish it wasn't that way, but it's just as bad in the church um, as it is in the world.
What,
And
Bishop, wasn't there a prophet in the Old Testament that was instructed by the Lord to marry a well-versed woman?
absolutely, absolutely, but that ain't where he stopped. He said, "Oh yeah, by the way, Hosea, she gonna cheat on you all of the time.
And she still will be
Then
your.
she gonna have some kids. Ain't none of them gonna be yours." And then I'm gonna give you some names that's gonna remind you that they ain't. I mean, I preached a message on that topic, Gil. One Sunday, shocked the church. I came in and asked them, "What do you do when God gives you a hoe?" Because that's what God did. He said, "Go get the prostitute." Now the Bible called her a hoe. I didn't call her that. That was the Bible called her. And God said, "Now go down there and get not just anyone, but go get the most well known." I don't know if I was Hosea if I could have. I might have missed heaven on that one. I might have personally missed heaven. God, I ain't gonna be able to do that. I ain't gonna be able to do that. No, no. Um, Mark Hutchinson, no. The question was, so Nevada law trumps church standards and norms. No, I don't think so. He has to be set down. No, not talking about Nevada law in that. I'm talking about the Constitution of the church and the rights that one has because um I'm only saying this about him because he pled guilty. And if he had taken the trial and proved that he was not guilty of it, then what? Then you have nothing to say because he wasn't guilty or he was found not guilty. Perhaps it is as was said. Perhaps it wasn't. But I know he pled guilty, so to me, yeah, that's what it is because you pled guilty to that. Actually, and let me back that up. He didn't plead guilty. He took an Alford plea, which means that when someone takes an Alford plea, that means that they don't plead guilty, but they do acknowledge that there is enough evidence to convince a jury, could be enough evidence to convince a jury of their guilt. And so that's what an Alford plea is. That's not to me. I'm not really having the spiritual side of the conversation. Um, yeah, thank you, Sales. That's just all that I'm saying. Is again, I'm saying to you all is that there must be, as Sales has said, due process, no matter who or what. I mean, you just because somebody accuse you doesn't automatically make you guilty. Um, that's right. That's right. God, that's right. Patricia is talking about. Priscilla is talking about the comment, Gail, in terms of David says we have free will and we have the perfect will of God. And many people vacillate there. David operated in free will, but not the perfect will of God. The Lord can intervene through warning about entering into. Absolutely, absolutely. And most people who are divorced will say, I knew I probably shouldn't have did that afterwards. And then they run into what God had for them in the first place. Sometimes it's women out of biblical order looking for a man. And then sometimes it's men looking with the wrong eyes. And then sometimes it's just those two people grow in different directions for whatever reason. Um, so I don't I think dating is necessary. Um, yeah, every I agree favor every credential holder should have a coaching at least a coaching manual and at least the bylaws at the very least. Uh, uh, like Daniel says, first of all, God created all of us sexual beings, so you are a liar. Sex is not evil because that's how God created us. To feel sex isn't evil. That's how you get it. That's true. I agree. It makes we already acting like the Catholic Church. We've been doing that for come on, since 1968. Can we tell the truth? Uh, yeah, Reverend Turner is our PAW cousin. Uh, okay, Gil. Let's have the conversation. It's taking me a little off of context, but let's come on. But okay, you see the comment, Gil.
He's they've been saying
Yeah, I'm not watching all the chat, but I'm just now
quite a
seeing some of
bit,
it.
quite a bit.
I knew this would be controversial, but it's a family conversation, so we good. So Dr. Daniel says God told Adam and Eve to breed and multiply and replenish the earth. So you are a liar. God put your sex organs for you to have sex, or do you think that a bird brought you? Did somebody say that you can't have sex, Gil? Is that what happened? Because I don't know. I don't know. What happened? How did we get here? Was it somebody said something about having sex? Was it
Someone has been doing a lot of typing tonight. I see a lot of typing. Uh, when you try to bring a debate on that, people, first of all, you're human, okay? Um, every sexual being as a human has those feelings and emotions. And again, I did say we were going to have a relationship show in the um, upcoming this year. However, you have to have some sense of self control. Um, anybody can say no. Women can say no. Men say no. So um, that's something that you are in control of. No one no one makes you do anything. Sometimes there are times where you want to do that, and that's what you do. So
Mark Hutchinson, you are absolutely correct. The church is not a court of law, but as it relates to the governance and the discipline within the church, the Supreme Court issued a ruling back in the 70s that all courts have to abide by now, which is the courts acquiesce to the church and its doctrine and its discipline when it comes to how it disciplines. And so our discipline structure is just that. It is one that requires a trial by the council of pastors and elders within Israel. There must be an accusation. This is an actual process. There has to be first an accusation, a written accusation. That must be sent to the jurisdictional bishop. The jurisdictional bishop must convene a investigative committee. That investigative committee must investigate. That means talk to everybody involved, both sides, and then determine whether or not they believe that there's probable cause within the church order, the church court, the tribunal of the church, to then charge him with something, they then present those charges to the jurisdictional bishop, who then and the secretary and the secretary of the national church, and then they set a date for the trial, which has to take place in a certain period of time, and specify a constitutional period of time, and then if he is found guilty by his peers, which means the members of the council of elders and pastors and elders in this church in his jurisdiction, then they can make the recommendation, anything from probation to removal. He then constitutionally has a right to file an appeal, and he would first file an appeal with the National Council of Pastors and Elders. Then, if he doesn't like the results there, he can then appeal to the Judiciary Board and get a ruling there. It has to be referred, because you have to have already gone through a trial in order to get to the Judiciary Board. And then, according to our Constitution, even with the amendment of the Judiciary Board, that the General Assembly is the final court of appeals, like the Supreme Court, because it is slated as the supreme judicial body of the church. So if he want to put his business all out there, he could do that. But that's the process within the church. Now, what happens in the court, that's something completely different. And what I'm saying to you is that even now, they would have been able to take care of that. The problem is, when they did that, when the presiding bishop did that, they not only did not remove him, but let him leave quietly. Gil, did I miss saying that part? Because I don't think I got there, because the conversation went somewhere else. So now there is no removing him from that pulpit, because he's no longer technically under the authority. Is he? Yes. But is he not? Yes. And all he did was took COGIC off the official name, and now it's just New Beginnings Ministry instead of New Beginnings Ministries Church of God in Christ. So when we could have done something with him, and this is why I believe the Catholic Church comment was made, Gail, when we could have done something with him, we didn't move him to another church. We just moved him out the door. See what I'm saying? Therein lies the problem. It's not my problem. It's the church's problem. Oh God, what has happened? Who won? Gail, what is happening in the chat? Because I done got lost. I done got lost in the process. I don't know what we're talking about now. God knows I don't know.
I do make
I can't keep up with it.
I do want to make this clear. These are the rules for this page. And we appreciate everyone that's in the chat. We love the interaction, but we do have a standard here. Back to you, Bishop.
What did I miss? You know, you ain't told me what I missed.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Oh, okay.
You're doing great.
Well, I'm looking at the chat. I don't really know. Are people arguing in the chat room? I don't know.
No, it's we're good. All's well.
Who?
All is well.
Oh, okay. All
is well. Thank you.
I agree. I'm talking to Hutchinson now. I agree. Different generation in the 60s, 50s, 40s, even different concepts. You got to remember, there was a time, Gil, when they wanted their daughters to marry guys who are already, if you wasn't married by 16, you was old maid. Remember that? That was a thing too. And then there was a time when they wanted you to marry a guy and you might have been 16, 17, 18. They wanted you to marry a guy who's about 28, maybe 30, because he was
Yeah,
established and put in
yeah,
the house and all kinds of.
yes,
So I
true.
mean, listen, we got to understand something. The problem with the law is that it changes with every generation, because what does the Bible tell us? Every generation gets weaker and wiser. So when you know better, you do better. And so, but there's some people who still have that mentality for whatever reason. That's not sometimes, Gail, people will come on and say, oh, are you making an excuse? I'm never making an excuse. I'm just telling you what happened. This ain't even my story. So I'm just telling you what happened as an update of this young man and what has happened with him. Now, again, why am I saying it? Because constitutionally, had we not did it and dealt with him the way that we did, then we could deal with him now. But now you have lost that ability because you disavowed him. And once you do that, you can't then go into court and say, "Oh, this is a COGIC church and we want him out." Well, you can't do that now because
And
you've already
when
reached.
as you said that, I had asked for an update on the case in Florida, and come
Mhm.
to find out that case is still going on.
Yes. Yeah.
Really, people, come on, let it go. The church has already made a decision on the case, and then you need to follow thereby. Why keep writing? That's what I don't understand on that one, but you know,
Yeah, that used to be a thing. 16 used to be a thing. Yeah, you were considered an old maid
what
by 16.
16?
Come on.
You're 16. You just learning how to fry chicken at 16.
But can you imagine that was a time? You know what I'm saying? That was a time. And
Yeah,
that was a thing that, you know, a lot of
learning how
people
to
did.
make hot water cornbread and you know shuck peas and all that kind of stuff. But
Is there a time limit for an appeal if a pastor was removed without the proper steps being taken? Yeah, I want to say it may be 30, 45 days. I would have to look at the pastors and elders manual, but I think that's, if my last memory recalls. I think it's either 30 or 45 days. Do I like Bishop Carl Pierce? Um, I like him as a person, yeah. Have I
they be
had
having some church though. Baltimore be in there, boy. They be having church.
um I've only had one major issue with Bishop Pierce, but it wasn't something that I held against him. That's you know, that was just him, taking one for the team. So I don't have a problem with Bishop Carl Pierce. I remember him when he was in Houston, um, when his wife was still alive. Great preacher, nice guy, nice guy. I think I met him through the late Superintendent Banks, because I know he was close to them, and Superintendent Banks was he became a very good friend, even though I was much younger. But he was just a great advice. As a matter of fact, he's the first person to put me in a room with the presiding bishop and his wife. He brought him in for something and invited me over, and so yeah, I like him.
I
I
think the
don't I
first
don't
I think the
have
first
a
time
lot
that
of
I heard about
conversation.
him, I think the first time I really paid attention or recognized who he was when the passing of his wife, and
Okay, yeah, Carolyn
that's when it
Showell,
became more
please.
familiar. And then I think Bishop Jerry Macklin was there representing the
Yeah.
church, and
Hmm.
beautiful service, great service. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know what, Vaughn, I'm glad you brought that up. So Vaughn brings up the question. what's my perspective about the term limits proposal? I think we absolutely need term limits. I think it's absolute. Um, I think it's absolute personally. Um, my number, and I think we talked about this, Gail, in 2022. I think this was one of the things that I was talking about. But I believe general board members max should be able to serve 3 terms. Um, as well as the presiding bishop, I think. I think 12 years is long enough to do anything. And because the church has gotten older, Dr. Vaughn, because the church itself, the average age of membership is probably about 60. There's not a lot of, you know, that's just a reality. And so I think perhaps we can avoid a lot of other things. Yeah, yeah, JD. I was told that I did. Texas is to be as big as it is small. It's all outdoors. It's just we got so many people that's related to each other in this church. It's just it's almost amazing to me. But yeah, I remembered him from Houston, um, and so I don't have any negatives to say about him. I like him personally as a person. Um, Yeah, I think, yeah, I'll leave it there.
I think in this administration that we have now, it's definitely a family tree. Um, I don't think that's fair because it kind of locks us in where and we have what 6 million people or whatever they said it is, and we only have like a handful of people that can be actual leaders
Where's
within.
Dr. Moses Tyson? He would be yelling at you right now for saying 6 million people.
Okay, well,
He would be yelling for that. It ain't 500,000. You know how Dr. Tyson is.
on
And would
record
sit here till we
it
all
has
got
been
tired.
said, and on record it has been said, nearly 6 million people. So, um,
Well, at one point it was saying nearly 8 million people. So what you gonna do? What I do know is that moving to the next. What I do know is they didn't show up to the April call meeting. I do know that, Gail. They did not show up to this. Not this year meeting. Not this year. And again, and I know we have a lot of Bishop Sheard.
and it's quite strange, Bishop, that they did not show up, but they had a whole lot of YouTube had a of a swamp. I'm sorry, a swamp of workers meetings last month.
they did. They did.
to prepare them to go to the April call.
Well, a lot of people did not show up. That's a difficult. That's a difficult. That's a difficult question. I don't know the constitutional. Okay, here's the problem. Here's the problem, Dr. White. Here's the problem. Okay. The problem is that to change the Constitution takes time. Okay. Um, to change the Constitution takes time, right? To get an amendment to the Constitution, what I mean. The 3 readings, da da da, generally takes about 2 years. You got to get it approved, no changes, yada yada. So what they've been doing is just passing resolutions, which is the first step to an amendment. It's not the last step. And so because they've been passing these things and people don't know that through parliamentary procedure, a resolution does not override an amendment ever. Then they think that this is real, and then they let it be real because of what they call customary practices. So when you look in the Black Manual, or if you go back and look at the 1952 Blue Book, or the Red Book, any of them, anytime we've changed or added amendments or whatever to the Constitution, you will see it says somewhere in there that anything in conflict with this, including customary practices, is now void. Um, that's what you get, and so I don't know if they're trying to go backwards or forwards with their proposed um, benefit. I don't know, to be quite honest with you. Auxiliary bishops came about uh, because they used to have what were known as assistant bishops, all the way up until the time that Bishop O.T. Jones was removed. Um, um, and so uh, that's that's just the reality of that. And at the time, so when it came to assistant bishops, they could be made in the field by the jurisdictional bishop. That was not a function of the general board and presiding bishop. That was not a thing at that time. And so that was replaced with auxiliary bishops in 1972. And so as a consequence, now I guess they're trying to change it again, because you have so many times where people are being made, uh, uh, they're being made for some other benefit. Okay. Sister Dunford said auxiliary bishops are just an excuse to not give those men their due, seems like. Um, so here's the thing. Auxiliary bishops are generally at the request of the jurisdictional bishop. So that an auxiliary bishop technically has all of the rights and abilities of a jurisdictional bishop, but no authority. They don't oversee a jurisdiction, but they can go in place of a jurisdictional bishop and handle the ordinances and the things that the jurisdictional bishop would normally only do, like install a pastor. That's generally the purview of the jurisdictional bishop, unless he assigns. So that's why you'll see that word assign. So they can do things that an administrative assistant or a superintendent cannot do. Um, in the place of the jurisdictional bishop, at the behest of the jurisdictional bishop, on the name and the word of the jurisdictional bishop. So that's kind of where they get that authority. For some people, it is, yes, that, just as you say, for some people, it's a stepping stone. In other words, you may have the presiding bishop wants to make them a jurisdictional bishop. They may have men following them, but that that jurisdictional bishop, for whatever reason, this going to be a split. So that's kind of how that happens. It's just a shorter track to a jurisdiction, also, if that's what your goal is.
Well, see, as you were talking about that, I think, it's good for the auxiliary bishops kind of sort of, because my own uncle, that passed away last year, he was consecrated as a jurisdictional auxiliary bishop, and he had served the church for many years. I think he even was on the National Evangelist Department, Bishop Milton Oliver. And the only thing that I had a problem with, they waited so late in his lifespan to put him as an auxiliary bishop. He had already come to the point where he was still serving. I mean, because I even personally talked to him. I went to him. I says, Uncle Milton, it's time for you to let someone else do what you're doing. He says, I'm not going to stop until the Lord take me. And that's what he did. But I think,
Wow.
go ahead.
No, I wasn't interrupting. I was just saying, wow.
And so, because he
I,
was already in his 80s, or already in his early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, when they decided to make him an auxiliary bishop. But I always thought that the position of auxiliary bishop was more of a glorified title outside of administrative assistant, because I thought if you were put as first, second, and third administrative assistant, you still did the same job as an auxiliary bishop to represent the jurisdictional bishop that you're in. You know,
It's not just a glorified thing. The problem is that oftentimes it has been used when it comes to older men. Um, it has been used as a honorary, almost like an honorary bishop position, because they're not really going to do the work, but they've been there, they've been overlooked. There we go. Supervisor Joyce Rogers. Uh, some will say they gave it to her on her deathbed. Some will say they gave it to her after she died. Just depends on who you're talking about. Um, do I believe Bishop Pierce will make it on the general board?
I think he has
Um,
an opportunity to run as others. I
yeah.
do believe that Shelby, Bishop Shelby, Don Shelby, should have been on that board outside of someone else that's on the board, but oh well.
Um, all right, that's the answer. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Bishop Porter said it best 4 years ago. To run for the general board, that election is popularity. The to be elected presiding bishop is about vision, and so I think he may need to get his name recognition up a little bit more, because people may know the name because he gets called out on a lot of committees. Um, but I don't know. I think he's doing good with YouTube and stuff like that. I think he has to push his brand, push his church, do a little bit more. Maybe a recording, a great album or something like that. Um,
But I do
I
have a
think he's gonna have to
question.
need
I,
something to get seen.
I do have a question, Bishop.
Mhm.
When is the rightful age when you are a bishop, especially when you're at the highest position of the church? When is the rightful age to be emeritized?
Emeritization. There was once. So there's an amendment in the black and white amendments book. Those were proposed amendments, most of them. And there was a proposal to have a meritization at 70. Um, for presiding bishop, I think they moved that to 74, unless he's in good health, and then he can run one more time at 78 to 78. So I don't think anybody ought to be able to serve longer than a presiding bishop. Presiding bishop can serve till he's 78. Um, to me, that's at the very least that ought to be the cutoff. Good evening to the one and only Bishop Dennis Martin from Atlanta, Georgia. If you have in Atlanta, that's where you got to go. I'm telling y'all, changed my life. He says Bishop Oliver served under him, former evangelism department president. He served in the department for over 50 years. Love Bishop Oliver. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you're serving as and where you're serving, to determine whether or not um, how long you can serve. There's some areas where longevity is a great thing. Finance department, evangelism department. You know, people who work within that department, even within those departments. I don't think I don't think you ought to serve in the youth department for 50 years. I don't think you should do that. I don't know how connected or relevant your perspective can be at 70 with the Sunshine Band and Period Class. And I don't even know if you're talking about the same topics at this point.
But what is considered youth to lead? Because we had an individual that was still chair lady of the youth, and she was still in her 60s. Um, Unbelievable. I mean, you're not a youth anymore. I mean, when do you put these people that are within that age bracket to serve in the youth department? Um,
I think I
what is it
think
called? Come on.
I think Supervisor Dr. Joyce Rogers was still connected. It was she was still connected to the youth because that's what she was connected to. And so even though now a lot of times, within the church, this is an inside family, funny. We talk and laugh that she was 60 years old, was still doing splits and turning flips. But in reality, um,
But when they
I
reach a
think
certain age, they should be.
you got to have a transition. I'm gonna say what Bishop Winbush said to us in 2012 when he came to the Pastors and Elders Council meeting. Bishop Winbush took the podium and said to us, "Now I know y'all want new blood, and I know y'all want to go in a newer way, but I would suggest to you that you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, because you're going to need some wisdom on the board. You don't want everybody to be new." And it literally changed the trajectory of that election. After that year, um, I think worked to get Bishop. He's now Bishop Destry Bell elected, and I think maybe Prince Brian, uh, maybe Prince got in that year too. I mean, it's just one of those things to.
But they don't have to be removed. They can still be advisors of that
Well,
department. I mean,
that's just now becoming a thing. Let's just be honest, right? That's just now becoming a thing, and so um, emeritization has been in the book for a long time. But you got to tell me why no bishop wanted to emeritize, and most of them don't want to emeritize because there's no real good
ain't no
retirement
check.
plan.
Can't get no offer.
Ain't no good retirement plan put in place,
Well, that's their fault.
and so I don't say it's their fault. They may not know how to. Uh, I mean, truthfully, most of them don't even know how to set their jurisdictions up to create a retirement fund, which is not difficult to do. But if you don't know and you're not talking to somebody who does know, then what do you do?
Some people have
Um,
work jobs. Some people have work jobs, and there's such thing as a 401k and all these other K's and D's. I mean, come on. There is, I mean, even in other denominations, they have retirement plan. I mean, they don't want to miss the money, and that's sad.
but
You can
again,
still get
if
a check.
nobody,
You can
but
still get.
but
You can
again,
still get something. I mean, you
but
can still
but
get a
again, Jill, if you don't know, hold on. If you don't know, I'm not saying it's not available, but you got to ask yourself: do they know that is available and what's available and how to set up a nonprofit retirement fund? If you don't know how to do that, then of course, our company does it. But if you don't know how to do that, and there are many companies that do it, so it's the same way you set up a teacher's retirement fund. It's how you do it within the church. But if you don't know that, then you don't know. So I don't
if
know if they just don't know, or if they don't, or if they just it's all about the money.
well, Bishop, let them
If
work a
it's set
corporate
up,
job. Let them work a corporate job and they not have that 401k when they decide to retire. They know. Come on, I don't believe that. I just don't believe that.
right? So hey, Felix, what's going on, Banks? Good to see you. Because when we were teens, we had to wait till Sylvester Silver got the letter in the mail. Today, our grandchildren could DM Chris Brown and meet him in the lobby. No, you can age out of the position. Absolutely. I think the question is, what is the age? And then I think we have to bring honor to emeritizing. The problem with our emeritization process, Gil, is that it looks like they putting them out to pasture because most of the people that we emeritized didn't want to be emeritized. And the
Well,
reality
some
is
because
that
they are big.
to emeritize by definition is for the person to be in position and retire out of position. That's emeritizing. That's something that the person initiates. But the way we do it, whatever, you know, it does not make you feel. Uh, it doesn't make you feel like it's an honor. Okay, and I think we have to do better at that. Um, but I don't know. I think that's a question for bishops within the church as to um, what is the right age. That's hard to because you got some bishops that's running tight at 80. Bishop O.C. Booker at 95. I mean,
He's 90.
people.
Yeah, I think he just turned
Not,
93 or 94. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. He's. I don't know. I don't. He may be over 100. I don't know in real life. But what I'm saying is, I know what they say, and that's no diss as Bishop Booker. But I say that in all sincerity to say, every time I see him, he's just as strong now as probably some of them in their 50s and 60s. I mean, it's just. But I think you have to set the parameters. Everything has a parameter. We recently found out that the presidency has no parameter, though. You can be, what didn't Donald Trump just celebrate 78, 79 years? He can stay there longer than you can be presiding bishop in church. So I don't know. I think it's a matter of functionality. But if we're talking biblically, then he called the old because they knew the way, but he called the young because they were strong. This used to be a young man's church. Never forget that. Gail, you hear me say it all the time on this platform. People forget that the senior bishop of the church, the only senior bishop of the Church of
it's
God in
40.
Christ, was 41. Bishop O.D. Jones was was not installed as senior bishop. That did not happen. Okay, 94. Thank you so much. He turned 94
That's what.
last month. Thank you so much, Reverend Turner. Appreciate you. Prim says, "Hey, listen, this problem was made worse when Bishop Chandler David Owens died. If they had made his situation look better, I think we wouldn't be here." I agree. I agree. I absolutely agree. Well, I mean, they didn't necessarily give Bishop Winbush a whole celebration either. Bishop McKinney. I think that was the first funeral that Bishop Shear did, and it was also the first funeral that the International Music Department president didn't show up to. Um, and that was what, 2021. And then
I do
Bishop.
have. I have a question on that. Since
Mhm.
we're moving towards the music department, um, I just have a question. Why is there, every time we see a national meeting, there are people that don't look like us?
What do you mean? Tell me what that means. Help me.
Um,
Are we talking about non-black?
no,
What are we talking about?
I'm talking about the alphabet,
Uh,
the dog hand.
uh, I mean, can we just be honest, y'all? I'm 4 minutes over time, but let's just be honest. The reality is, every denomination, every church, I need people to get this. The first time you see homosexuality, you see it in Genesis. It didn't go away. It is what it is. In every church, every denomination, uh, have people that grew up in it and embraced the gay lifestyle, and they didn't leave their church. That's just the reality. Most people who go to church go to a traditional church, even though there are churches that believe everything is fine. You do not see them as much as people try to make like the world is just changing. It's not. You've always had it. You're gonna have it to the day of Christ's return. Uh, The question is, how do you win? How do you develop influence? And then so people can hear you. And my opinion is that people don't really care what you got going on until they know that you care what they got going on.
And they will come to church. They come to church.
They at church every Sunday.
They come to
They don't
church.
just wait for
They're there.
convocation.
They're there, giving God glory, giving God praise.
Absolutely. And giving them money. But the question that I always have for pastors is, what do they see when they come? Because I just don't believe you can be in the presence of a God atmosphere and not change. I don't believe you can do that every Sunday and be the same person 6 months from now that you are today. I just
Not the
don't.
power, not the power that flows. Mm-mm.
No, God ain't that weak. God is not weak and he's not scared.
Mm-mm.
So whatever, we are more afraid of having LGBTQ people come into our church. And you know what? I think it has a lot to do with us acting like it reflects on us what somebody else is doing. I'm not intimidated by that kind of stuff. I don't care nothing about that. I don't care. I don't care that another man or woman is gay or whatever, outside of their soul, if they believe that Bible. I don't want you to ever believe the Bible and then believe God condones what he says he doesn't.
The word
But if
has
you
to
don't,
go forth.
but if you don't believe it, then we ain't really got nothing to talk about. Let's have lunch.
It's not about your opinion of them. It's what the word is saying to them. And if they
Exactly.
want to change, they will make that decision. No one would have to bash them, and embarrass them and bring them before the people. They know within their heart.
Can I tell you something, Gil? The Christ that people see is the Christ that you live. That's the bottom line to it. The Christ that people see is the Christ that you live. When
And
you're
we
trying to pull somebody into an understanding of God, they're gonna understand what they see more than they're gonna understand what you say.
and we constantly say, we have the scripture, with love and kindness have I drawn thee. Okay, so, but a lot of times we're not doing what we're saying out of our mouths. We're not being kind. We're not showing love. We're pushing them out more than bringing them in. But they come
Right.
back they come back just to get on your nerves
Right.
because they know you don't like
Banks, the jurisdictional appointments are on the COGIC Wikipedia site. They update it every time there are no appointments. So if you follow the COGIC Wikipedia site, you can find out who's appointed where. I mean, they do it almost immediately. Dr. Hutton, good to see you, man. Hope all is well up in the New Jersey, at the New Jersey area. Why isn't a retirement plan a part of the regular process like other major denominations? I don't know. If it were me, I would not want to be on a national retirement plan anyway. That happened in the AME church, and of course, we saw where that $90 million went. Uh, what about
Well,
convocation in Texas?
when I was speaking about that retirement plan, I was talking on the local level and the jurisdictional level of your state's jurisdiction. I was talking on that. I don't think it would be possible on a national level. And we bless you on tonight, Elder Moses Tyson. Good to see you.
Hey, Doc Tyson, listen, man. Give me a call this weekend. Is tomorrow Saturday?
Yes.
I'll be traveling, but give me a call tomorrow afternoon. Let's talk about how we can talk about what's happening. Because we need to let the people know what's happening. Um, the one and only Dr. Moses Tyson, um, who I super admire, y'all. I really do. He's behind the scenes,
Very
uh,
informative.
trying to be Here's the thing, though, Gail. He's trying to help the church.
Yeah.
And
Advocate.
sometimes when you're trying to mediate, people view that some kind of way, depending on how much of an adversary you become. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm trying my best tonight. I ain't gonna get to all of it clearly. But Gail, there is one thing I do want to get to. Um, and so, of course, um, Sir William reached out to you and asked you to reach out to me, and then shared some information um, that he has not fully shared with the world. Um, Here's the thing, in case for some of you who do not know, there was a case that involved Bishop Shaw. Again, somebody I greatly respect personally, know, uh, and have a lot of respect for. It's helped me in a lot of ways. I've helped him and other bishops in other ways within the church. Um, so Bishop Shaw and Bishop uh, Mosley. Um, I think Bishop Mosley was removed, I think, from Delaware. And here's, Gail, I'm getting ready to tell you why that was so important of what I was talking about Pastor Bobby Smith. Okay. I know it got off a tangent and people start talking about, all kinds of other things, but here's why that's important. And I hope y'all stayed long enough to get this, to hear this. So 2012 election um was not only the general board, but also the board of bishops. And there was an attempt to, an actual removing of Bishop uh, Holsey from Delaware jurisdiction. Um, and uh, there was an effort to remove Bishop Shaw as the secretary because Bishop Shaw did not want to go along with the removal of Bishop Holsey. And so Bishop Shaw was, it was, again, that's the Board of Bishops secretary, was a new secretary was elected. So they got him out the way, and Bishop Holsey. Uh, Long story short, all of that stuff got taken care of. Bishop Shaw filed a lawsuit and sued Sir William McCrae III and Bishop John Henry Sheard. Um, Defamation of character, some other things, because there were stories put out on both of them. Okay. Um, Both of the stories were sexual stories involving rape and other things. Um, it later came out that the real revelation, Gil, was that the stories were untrue, and that Sir William, at the time, Obnoxious Blog was the only thing in town that was doing those kind of numbers or whatever. And uh, he was offered money, and according to him, took the money according to the courts, because Bishop Shaw did win that lawsuit. Um, 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 but he never spoke on it until now. Um, and it turns out that the reality is that he was indeed, there was an arrangement, and those stories were not true. So when you all asked me in the comments about due process and why I'm saying that they should have given the man due process, and why what happened in the court is so important to what happens in the church, because just because you hear it doesn't make it true. The same reason I started off by talking about what happened with Administrative Assistant Robert Nichols Jr. and what that was about, because just because you hear it doesn't make it true. I know we want to believe that the church is a safe and safe place, but liars come to church. And even people who you can pay to create a narrative. And that's not a swipe, y'all all know William and I are friends. We're friends for real. Um, I have seen the growth. And him coming to this conclusion, Gil, and deciding to whether and how much he's going to share, um, is as a direct result um, of changes I've seen him making over the at least past 5 years. What would you say, Gil? 5 years or so? Um, People are works in progress,
A
but
little
at the
bit
end of the
more,
day,
a little bit more, maybe for you 5 years, but Ah!
Gail is something different. That listen, you and William have a much better relationship
Because
than me and William.
I have been an advocate for him. I've been trying to get Bishop to see another side.
And I do until I don't. I do until I don't. That's just the reality of it. Yeah, Dr. Tyson helped to mediate that case, but here's the problem, Dr. Tyson. You should have never had to mediate anything because it wasn't true, and um, and that's a problem. And then I'm also concerned, and I'm not mentioning all the leaders that were involved in this, um, but some of them are in leadership today. Um, the reality of it is that in this church, we ought not to be like the world in such that we are manipulating elections and putting people on and getting people off and telling whatever stories we want to tell. If I go to one more meeting and have to listen to the council, the legal counsel, the lying counsel, lie on people one more time and say something's happening. I don't understand the church, Gil. I'm so confused by how this happens in the church. Um, I just don't get it, man. It is, we have to do better. Sometimes it takes time, y'all, for things to come out. It always comes out. It's done in the dark, always comes out to the light. But he's got the receipts, and he's upset. He's upset, and I know who he's upset with. Um, is you got to be careful, and I hate even using this terminology, Gil. But you got to. The worst time to feed a lion is when your head is in his mouth, because he can't tell the difference between a steak and your neck, and so he just chews what's ever there. So that's the wrong time to feed one. And when you play games with people, um, who know where bodies are buried and how things got done, then don't be surprised when the person that you depended on to do one thing then has to remind you that they know. And if it, this is the church, y'all. It's not different, Gail. It's not different.
And
It's not different.
one thing about uh, uh, Sir William McCray III, he if he got it on you, he don't mind telling.
No.
He don't mind telling, and will tell it a couple of times till you know that he
Yeah.
knows. And
Absolutely. Well, he gonna drop it so you know. But at the end of the day, um,
I do feel that there were people that misused him because of
yes.
his tender heart. He trusted those people, and it they who It made him turn into the person that he is now.
But let me help you. Let me help you in one area. It was not a tender heart. William McCray is a businessman. If he's
Yeah.
nothing else, he know how to get the money. Okay, so that was not
So
that
does
was the he knew what he was
so does a lot
doing.
of preachers. So does a lot of preachers. They do it all the time. You
No,
know.
but that's what I'm saying is this was not. It wasn't. You're not going to put something that you have to fabricate out on the site without the careful consideration of how to fabricate the story, right? So that's not the issue here. The issue to me here is that you have leaders that absolutely were willing to use him to push other people out.
Mhm.
They were willing to actually tell a lie, not just say something about an opponent or whatever you want to have, but to actually create a story to say somebody is a rapist, or they're they like kids, or some weirdness. That's a level of corruption with an election that don't even make sense to me.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely, Murray. You thinking like I'm thinking, because that's the problem. It's the absolutely. I mean, just it is one of those that you got to know what everybody knew who they were dancing with. There's nobody who didn't know who they were dancing with. He listen, he didn't lie when he told the lawyer, I am scared and I can't tell you nothing, because he knew what he was dealing with. And so I think when he's ready, of course, we'll talk, um, and we'll do what we do. But I don't like where this story is going. I don't, because it's one thing to believe something was a lie. It's another thing to have a court find that something was a lie. But it's a whole nother thing when the person who you asked to tell the lie starts talking. That's a different kind of problem.
Well,
In
Bishop.
2012 ain't the only election where people talking.
Well, Bishop. Once again, we have had a marvelous show, fantastic show,
Yeah.
and those of you that enjoy this content, that appreciate the information that we have done research on, that we are giving you, you need to hit that cash app. Hit
Oh,
that cash.
Miguel.
We don't now listen. Only if you don't have it, I'm not talking to you.
Not talking to you.
This is not your I'm not talking to you. But those of you that would like to bless the bishop, hit that cash app. $ Heat Show. You will see the logo that's behind me. You will see that logo. And once you hit that on Cash App, you will see the Heat Show logo. That is us. Okay? Or if you would like to send it by Zelle, you will send it to heatshowcomments@gmail.com. You will see the name of David Jordan. That is him. Hit that Zelle account. You can give whatever. We don't have a specific amount on that. Whatever you feel that you would like to give to continue the work of Bishop Jordan. He don't just come on here and just start babbling. I might babble, but he got
You don't
facts.
babble. You don't babble.
I might be babbling, but he got facts. He got the paperwork. He knows his stuff. He knows when we bring a show to you and we give you information, we have it, we know it, we got it. Like I said, I might babble.
Let me say this, Gil. Let me say this. Let me say this. One of the reasons, Dr. Tyson, I don't come on every week is because there's not something to say every week.
It's not necessary.
I really got to the point, y'all. Dr. Tyson, I got to the point I got tired of talking about basically the same issue, just different people every week. There's enough lawsuits in this church going on to talk about lawsuits every day, or at least every week for sure. Probably twice a week at least. That's not interesting to me. Somebody getting caught in some scandal, not really all that ultimately interesting to me. When we bring something to you, it's because we think it will benefit the body, the delegates, the members to have the conversation. And then a lot of times it's to talk about how if it's not being done right, how it should be being done. Because some people don't know their rights because they ain't never read the books, and even if they did, they didn't understand what they were saying. So
And
that's
change
why we
can
need
come. Change can come if you speak up. You don't say nothing, it's going to stay the same. But if enough people, we're talking to the delegates now, enough of you would speak up and stand on your authority of your voice through voting and through saying something at the General Assembly.
Watch this, Gil. Watch this. Watch this. It took white people for black people to have the right to vote because enough of them got together and used their power to say, let's stop holding these folk down. For women to get rights, it took men to say yes to the rights that women wanted. You always have to exercise your power. I don't care what you have power in. If you're a delegate in the church, you owe the church to know what your job is and then to do it. We should not be a rubber stamp organization. We should not be a rubber stamp organization. And we have become an organization, Gil, where too many people are playing the game to get what they want. But then you see the people left behind. And you got guys that won't be bishop, ain't got enough people to do nothing with where they at. And now they finna tax those people so they can look like a bishop. Because they done played the game, raised the money, paid the costs.
They will mortgage their homes. They will mortgage their homes. They will take out payday loans just to come and show their face where they can't say nothing. I wouldn't do it.
Mm-mm.
Just to say they were there. And speaking of loans on property, I'm just gonna throw this out here, and we're gonna change. And they're asking a question about the Ames trip for Phoenix, Arizona. You can always call us in the email if you're still interested in going. It's Bishop's decision. You can talk to Bishop, and then we'll see what we can do. The Ames trip, we still would like you to participate. But I still don't understand how two bishops, two streets over from each other, go and foreclose you the same.
Gail, okay, we'll talk about that Sunday. Listen.
How both of y'all within 5 blocks of each other going foreclosure?
It's hard out there. At
the same time.
I'm not, you know what?
Don't they give you a letter? Don't they give you letters before they let you go?
They do. They do.
Don't they send you certified letters? Don't you get a certified letter if you're about to get foreclosed?
Listen, let me say this. If you want to go to Ames, I think for all 4 days and 3 nights, The trip is $273 total. You have to send $100 to the Heat Show Cash App. In the memo line, you need to put what it's for and your email or cell phone number. Actually, we need both. We only have 6 left. We stopped talking about it because we only had 50 in the first place, which was something. And it took like 2 weeks to get down to 6. So we stopped talking about it. We do still have 6 available. That's all we have available. But you send $100 deposit, and then that reserves your space. You'll then get an email, either by text or by email, whichever one you send us. But you'll get that, and it will give you your login information, and then you register, and your balance will be the 173 that you will pay there to the what's the word I'm looking for, Gail? The booking site, the travel agency booking site. Okay, so that's how that happens. Listen, pop in on us on Sunday. I'm excited. I'm going to the Essence Festival, Gail, for the first time. Never been. Heard a lot of great things about it from a lot of pastors. You would know their name if I told you them. But I want to go this year. And so on Sunday, we're going to open it up to you all to take the same trip that I'm taking, which is for the entire Essence. I think it's 3 days. Yeah, the word on the AIM trip, that's what's happening. You're not going to get a room in Arizona for $273, my less stay for 4 days and 3 nights for $273 at a top rated hotel of your choosing. That's not going to happen. Y'all can forget that. So we're making it happen.
You can wait if you want to. You can wait if you want to. Now, you can wait if you want to and go through those open registrations of what they have. But we are offering you this special deal.
We offered some of y'all. We only had 6. How can we get a copy of the Constitution? Dr. Tyson, them. You know what? Dr. Hutton, send me your your email address over to Heat Show Comments, and I'll make sure you get it. I'll just send it to you. Yeah, Dr. Tyson, I'm pretty excited about it. And but the Essence Festival trips, we're only gonna do 2 offerings of it. I forgot how much it is, Gil. But I know it's like 2 something. It's like some crazy number.
Very reasonable.
I think it may be less than the AIM thing. So if you want to go to the Essence Festival, we wanted to do it last year, but we got in too late. So they didn't have anything available to us. And but this year we're gonna do it starting Sunday. We're gonna do this Sunday, and not next Sunday, but the Sunday after that show. Then that'll be it. All right. So make sure you tune in. We'll give you all the information on Sunday for the Essence Festival. I'm super excited about it.
Bishop, I believe we're coming up to Easter celebration. I think this week will be Palm Sunday.
I think so.
Then Palm Sunday, and then Easter is coming up. Resurrection Sunday. Then a few days after that will be Pentecostal Sunday.
Pentecost Sunday is in May, I believe. 50 days. 50 days.
Pentecostal Sunday. I'm going to try to be in all my red.
Look here. Look at here.
I might be I might be in red with a white wig.
Listen, Gil. I got to say this to Dr. Turner, our PAW cousin. That's the one day that belongs to them. We celebrated, but
Ooh.
Pentecostals, that's nothing but the blood. Listen, I got you, Doc. They do different kind of shouting on Pentecost Sunday.
Now don't y'all
And
preach. Now don't y'all preach this before I do. The blood made it possible. Ah, there it is,
come
right
on
there.
here.
There it is. Receive it. Receive
There
it.
it is
Receive
right
it.
there.
Receive it.
Right. Listen, if you start a prophecy line tonight, I'm out. I'm out. If you ask people for $8.88, I'm out tonight. I just want you to know I ain't got that kind of patience. Listen, I want to thank y'all for watching. If you find it to be not robbery, make sure y'all just support the platform. It does at the very least encourage us to know that there are others who are walking with us, and so whatever you can do in that essence, that sometimes I remember Gil, uh, Bishop Noel Jones was at a conference in Dallas at the Potter's House, and he said, "Man," he said, "I get all of these men that tell me I'm they're my son in the gospel, and I'm this and that." And he said he told one of them, he said, "Well, if you really want to honor me, I only need two things." He said, "Bishop, what is that?" Bishop Jones said, "I told him, say thank you and send the check. Say thank you and send the check. That's how you honor me." That was the funniest thing I've ever heard. But at the end of the day, whatever you all decide to do, we appreciate that. How do you get a copy, Bishop Ray? How do you get a copy of the Constitution? Ask your jurisdiction. Look, y'all do know that Bishop Ray is being facetious right now. Y'all know he's being funny, right?
We do like to say thank you to our sponsors for the trips that those trips that you would like to be a part of and go on and stuff like that. We would like to thank God for our sponsors, and we say thank you to um, Total Health and Life Insurance Group. And um, if you're needing any type of insurance, whether it be health, life, you can call their office at 619-663-3637. At 619-663-3637. So we're waiting on the
Bishop,
last.
Are you in New York? I thought you were in New Jersey. Why did I think you were in New Jersey? I'm sorry. I'm just talking. I thought you
I
were in
was
New
waiting
Jersey.
on.
I thought Bishop Hutton was in New Jersey.
Oh wow.
I'm excited. Listen, y'all doing it big out there in New York.
New York be having it going on.
I,
New York is all right. They just shout too fast for me. I can't dance that fast.
if I ever decide to go home to Crown Heights, uh,
Dance.
I'm gonna go see a lot of good friends. New York is a preacher's state. You got some places that are not for preachers because they ain't for preaching. Uh, but New York is one of those states. Listen, thank y'all. Gail, I'm out. I'm 40 minutes over time. And thank you for hanging out. And we doing what we do tonight. Thank you all for sharing and being a part of uh, this gathering. I'm sure between now and Sunday, God only knows what will happen. So I'm sure we'll have more to talk about. But until then, thank you all so much, and praying God's choicest blessings upon all of you and your families. And we're trusting Him for everything. We're doubting Him for absolutely nothing because He's God. Gail, you want to pray? Take us home.
You making me pray because I was late, right?
Yep. Yep. Timeliness is next to godliness. I believe it.
Oh, thank you so much for watching tonight. We're praying for those that need prayer, those that are bereaved. I'm praying for those people in San Antonio, Texas, and especially my dear friend, Bishop Kenneth Wayne McIntyre, went home to be with the Lord. Uh, One of the very fine preachers there in San Antonio, pastor of the Greater Good News Missionary Baptist Church. They're having his services this weekend, and we're praying for the wife, Lady Nalina, and his sons, Apostle Marcus McIntyre, and also his son, Pastor Marcellus McIntyre, were very dear friends of mine, and we're praying for them. Also, those that there also have been some other people that have been experiencing bereavement in their families, and those that are sick, those that are needing prayer, those that just need God to move. And we're going to pray that God answer their request and God continue to cover them. Now, I want to say this before I pray. Now, this is tax season. Now, if you feel upon your heart after you get that tax season, that money, that refund, and you feel that you want to bless a ministry, bless the ministry of Bishop David Jordan. He puts his heart into this show. And thank you for those that have given donations times past. And we're grateful to that. But now there are more needs to be met. And if you don't mind and if you want to share, you can also send that donation if you feel led. And we hope that God really speaks to you. And we hope that God speaks to you in your sleep, that when you wake up, you hear Heat Show or Bishop David Jordan. I got to do something for Bishop David Jordan. And God is going to speak to you until you give that donation. Now you hit that Cash App and you go to Cash App and that $ Heat Show, you will see the sign that's behind me. You will know that is us. Now, if you would like to do the Zelle, you can also do the Heat Show comments at gmail.com. All donations are tax deductible. We thank God for Bishop and his heart to want to share with the world about the Church of God in Christ and just being a leader, being an effective leader. We just don't talk about the Church of God in Christ, but we talk about those that are in leadership and how to be an effective leader. Now, God, we thank you. We thank you for this time that you allow us to share on the way of YouTube or on the internet. We thank you for those that have clicked on this page. And God, as they continue their evening, their morning, their afternoon, cover them, oh God. Cover their families, God. Cover their children, cover their friends, cover those that are connected to them, and God, and those ministries that they represent as they come into the chat and as they share with us when we're live and when we're and even on the replay, those that watch this show. God, let them be blessed. Let the favor of God cover them, oh God. We pray for those that are sick. We ask that you touch them from the crown of their head to the sole of their feet. If they're taking medicine, God, let the medicine work through their faith in you, because we know that you are a healer. And as they take the medicine, God, that their bodies will become whole. And God, we thank you for the blood. We thank you for every stripe that you took on the cross, for our healing, for our salvation, and for those needs that we need. God, you took those stripes for our benefit. You took our burdens on you, God. You carried our burdens to the cross, and God, you set us free. You gave us victory. You gave us the Holy Ghost. And we thank you for the Holy Ghost that you have given us, oh God. We thank you for the Holy Ghost because it is a comforter. God, when we need you the most, you send the Holy Ghost to comfort us in whatever needs that we have. God, I pray for every pastor. I pray for every pastor and that the vision that they have and they share with their people that they oversee and the people that they cover, that those people will hear a word from their pastor and they will help that pastor meet that vision that he has for that ministry. God, I pray for every evangelist. I pray for every teacher, God. I pray for every prophet. I pray for every prophetess. I pray for the teachers and God, those people that are at the bottom pole of helps, God. Those nobody really talks about the ministry of helps, but God, there is the ministry of helps, and there are people that work within the ministry of helps. And as they help the ministry go forth and be strong and be confident and be secure, God, bless them more. God, we need money. Those that need money, God, open up the doors, open up the finances, open up those that have filled out applications for a loan, or even just for they need money. God, let it come forth. Let them be approved. God, those that are looking for homes and they have put the application on that table, let that person that gives the stamp of approval stamp and say approval for the loan, the house, the car, the business. God, those that are opening businesses, God, you touch that business. And God, those that walk through the doors of that business, let everyone that walks through that door, let them know they're confident in patronizing that business, God. Let everything be open. And when they come, we as Christians, God, they have to feel a different way. Those people that come in contact with all of us, God, when we give out of ourselves and testify about you, after they have a conversation with us, God, let them feel different. Let them feel encouraged. Let them grow in faith, God. We walk by faith and not but what we see. And God, we thank you now because you're doing it, and you're doing it because of you. We thank you for what you have assigned us to do. And God, let us come up to your word. Let us come up to your word. Sometimes we come up short, God. Sometimes we don't do like we're supposed to do, but shake us again. God, I ask that you shake every household, everyone that is in the chat, God, shake that house. Shake that house, oh God. Shake the people that are in that house, God. Shake them again. Cover everyone, oh God. And we thank you because we give you the glory, the honor, and the praise. Bishop, any last words?
Last words before y'all, if y'all would sometime this weekend, reach out to the one and only Bishop Jeffrey Bell. I know other things are going on, but God has given him an amazing healing. And he was back in his pulpit on Sunday. Was glad to see him. Went through, almost got up out of here. And so we thank God for raising him back up. Also, stop by Bishop Melton Timmons' Facebook page and just send him a nice message. We're congratulating him. Years of work being done, as well as I believe it's Bishop designate Lee, who is the son of the late Bishop Lee, James Lee, out of Texas East. Is it Texas East? I think, yeah, Texas East. So we're praying for them all as they come into the work that they will take on. And then whoever I missed, again, listen, I'm going to congratulate everybody that's been appointed in whatever office they have been appointed into, because I want to see the church succeed. At the end of the day, we don't talk because we want to see it fail. We talk because we want to see it succeed. And so I think if we follow the instructions as laid out by Bishop Mason and those 100, 115, 117 years ago, I think we'll be all right, Gail. So if y'all would do that for me, reach out to those and whoever you know. Gail's uncle, he's now a bishop in the church. It's just a lot going on. So let's see how we can unify. And unity is in conversation because wisdom is in a multitude of counsel. So let's pray for our church. Let's pray for our leaders. Let's pray that the next four be better than the last, because that's the state that we're in. All right. Till next time, be blessed.